It is 1:30, so we can go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this informational webinar about Double Up Food Bucks, which is just an excellent program, not only because it supports health and wellness in our communities, but it also is an opportunity for grocers to increase produce sales. And we will get into that and a lot more during the webinar today. My name is Erica Blair. I'm a program manager with the Rural Grocery Initiative, and we are very excited to be hosting this webinar today with the Double Up Heartland Collaborative. Next slide. So before we begin, just wanted to share a little housekeeping. So first, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available later on ruralgrocery.org. And second, we just wanted to let you know that there will be a designated time for Q&A. So if you have questions during the presentation, feel free to type them in the chat. We will be monitoring questions that come in, and then we will make every effort to get everyone's questions answered today. And during the Q&A time, you can also feel free to unmute yourself to ask your question as well. Next slide. So this is what our agenda looks like for today. We will start with a quick introduction of the Rural Grocery Initiative, and then the majority of our time will be spent discussing Double Up Food Bucks. We'll have time for you to ask questions about the program, and then we will quickly review some resources in Kansas that can support your grocery store. And then finally, we'll wrap it up and give you a chance to ask any remaining questions that you may have. Next slide. So before we get into the meat of the presentation, just a brief overview of the Rural Grocery Initiative, which is part of K-State Research and Extension. Our mission is to sustain locally owned rural grocery stores to enhance community vitality and improve access to healthy foods by identifying, developing, and sharing resources that support grocers and rural communities. Next slide. So to be a little more specific, here are some of the things we do in our office. We provide technical assistance to grocers and communities, and this means we provide information on a variety of grocery-related topics. We can point you in the right direction and connect you with other resource providers, or we can help you strategize whatever issue you are facing. We also conduct research. So many of you joining us today probably filled out a survey from us this past spring, which just helps us understand the landscape of rural grocery in Kansas and what additional support is needed. We developed and continue to maintain the Rural Grocery Toolkit, which has a lot of really excellent resources, both for existing grocers as well as new grocers, folks who are just establishing grocery stores. So you can find that on our website at ruralgrocery.org, and I encourage you to check that out. Then we also host educational events, including our most recent webinar series on business transition planning. We also host a biennial National Rural Grocery Summit. And that is a chance for grocers to come together and learn from each other and learn from others across the nation. And we will have more information about this summit very soon, so stay tuned for that. And then finally, we are a partner with the Kansas Healthy Food Initiative, which can provide financial resources to grocery stores in Kansas. And we'll talk about this a little bit more toward the end of the webinar. So the Rural Grocery Initiative is a resource for you. Please be in touch, and we will be happy to help you in any way that we can. Next slide. So now we are ready to dive in and start talking about Double Up Food Bucks. And we are joined by Lauren Schomburg, who will walk us through this program and explain how your grocery store can get involved. Lauren is a public health planner for the Mid-America Regional Council, which is a partner on the Double Up Food Bucks program. Lauren assists with program management and coordinates with the Double Up Food Bucks grocery store locations. So Lauren, I will go ahead and turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Erica. And thanks for getting us started. And thank you to everyone who is joining us today. My name is Lauren. I'm going to talk about the Double Up Food Bucks program and opportunities for grocery stores to get involved. So we'll kind of start with the basics. What is Double Up Food Bucks? It is what we call a healthy food incentive program. It is for families that are receiving SNAP benefits. That's the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, also called food assistance or food stamps, sometimes referred to as EBT. Double Up Food Bucks provides a dollar for dollar match on the purchase of fresh fruits and vegetables up to $25 per day, sort of doubling that purchasing power on healthy food for participating shoppers. The match is then redeemed on additional fruits and vegetables, and we'll talk a little bit about how that actually works in a grocery store. So our program is currently offered at grocery stores, farmers markets, farm stands, and mobile markets in both Kansas and Missouri. There are also Double Up Food Bucks and similar nutrition incentive programs in I think every state in the US has some form of this program. So these are kind of the three big goals of the program. Of course, we want families to be able to bring home more healthy food. We want to make healthy food more affordable. We do prioritize working with the farmers markets, farm stands, and grocery stores that supply local produce, so that we're also supporting local agriculture. And then we try to work with locations that are keeping food dollars in the local economy, strengthening those local communities. So as Erica mentioned, we are a collaborative of partners that carry out this work across Kansas and Missouri. I've got my organization circled because we coordinate with all of the grocery locations in both states, but we also have this other spread of partners that is helping us implement this work in a much broader sense. So Kansas State Research and Extension, Cultivate KC, West Central Community Action Agency, and then starting this year, University of Missouri Extension will come on board to help us with some of that farm direct work to build relationships in those communities. We also have KU Medical Center on as a partner that coordinates our evaluation efforts. Okay, so the program works a little bit different depending on the type of location. I'm just going to talk about grocery stores today because that is, of course, what you all do. If there are any questions about how it works at our farm direct locations, please put those in the chat and we can address them later. But at the grocery store, it is a fruit and vegetable to fruit and vegetable model. So the customer purchases fruits and vegetables and they get a match on fruit and vegetables. So the way that this works in practice is the customer picks out their fruits and vegetables. The amount that they purchase is matched with a cap of $25 per day. So that would be $50 total in produce. And then the next time the customer comes to the store, they can redeem that matching amount on additional fruits and vegetables. So generally this is tracked in the form of like a loyalty card, a coupon. Some people have done like pre-printed coupons. We'll talk about these incentive mechanisms in detail later in the presentation. And then in some cases, we do allow for just an immediate 50% discount. So there's not really the earning and redeeming. It all sort of happens in one transaction. So under that model, a customer would say they would come up with $20 in produce. They would just get that $10 matched immediately and pay $10. We do reserve that model for kind of smaller stores with lower budgets, just because we do have budgetary restrictions ourselves. So this is kind of the current scope of our program. with the yellow dot locations, and that's grocery and farm direct. And then the green dots are all of the locations that have applied for 2022. So you can see that we are anticipating a lot of expansion over the next year. We do have some funds to expand to more grocery stores also within Kansas. So we are accepting applications at this time. All right, so these are kind of the key elements that a successful grocery store needs to have in place to really offer this program in a way that is meaningful to both the store and the shoppers. So of course, a variety of produce options. And then you'll need to have that incentive mechanism kind of figured out before you start offering it. And again, we'll talk about that in detail later in the presentation. Successful grocers, they employ a variety of communications methods. I think signage is really important to have around the store so that especially people who may be coming to the store for the first time sort of understand, see the sign, it matches the flyer that they see, they know they're in the right place, they feel, comfortable and confident to use the program. We do, as sort of the Double Up Foodbucks Collaborative, do a large communications efforts, but we found that stores that really add Double Up Foodbucks to their normal communications tend to be a little bit more successful because that's what the customer is used to seeing. Also, staff training is really important, especially if the incentive mechanism is set up in a way that requires cashier intervention. Training those cashiers to know how to use the program and how to talk to the customers about the program, encourage them to use the program in a way that is dignified and sensitive. And then the last one's kind of obvious, having an existing SNAP customer base. We've tried this program with stores that didn't have a whole lot of SNAP customers, and we found that maybe they got a few extra customers, but it really is a lot more effective and meaningful if we're meeting people sort of where they're already shopping. Okay, so program rules, these are basically the things that need to be considered when setting up your incentive mechanism. There's sort of parameters for how our program specifically works. So as we discussed before, earnings and redemptions, eligible items for that is just fresh fruits and vegetables. The daily match is capped at $25 per day. The purchases must be matched 1-to-1. They can't be matched more than that or less than that, unless some systems do a coupon where it rounds down. So the customer may lose out on some of that, but we do allow that. Like SNAP dollars, incentives cannot be exchanged for cash. They cannot be used to earn additional incentives. Stores are responsible for tracking and reporting by the program deadlines. This is really important because we have deadlines with USDA that we have to meet. So making sure that's understood from the beginning. Stores must offer local produce during the growing season. This is something that we can help stores work on, and Erica and Ryle will present on some other resources for connecting with local growers later. But that is a requirement that you offer some amount of local produce and that you report that amount to us. So our current program dates are April 1st to December 31st. We take about a 3-month pause just to get caught up with our budget. We will consider allowing some stores to run year round. It just kind of depends on how the budgeting goes and how sort of things fall into place. We have current funding through August 31st, 2024. So we have about 3 years of funding if you started this year or next year. And then, of course, locations must be in good standing with USDA. We do have to go through a process where we get our locations approved by the USDA. Okay, so this is part of our application, which I'm going to show you all later, but I just wanted to highlight some of the expectations that we have for grocers and then that you can have from us. So again, we expect that you will collect the data and report it on time. Let's see, that you'll work with our evaluation team. They do surveys of cashiers, store managers, and customers, and then that you'll promote the program and also promote fresh produce. From us, you can expect, again, that communications work that we do as a collaborative. We also have help with technical assistance. So if you're not sure exactly how to set up your incentive system, if you don't know if you want to do a coupon or a loyalty card, we do have technical assistance both from our group and then a national group to help get that going. And then we do have opportunities to offer nutrition education to your customers. And then of course, we hope that the stores and the customers will really benefit from this program, so that your stores will see increased number of customers, increased sales, increased awareness in the community for locally grown produce, competitiveness with large discount stores and corner stores, and then recognition as a good community partner. And just for context, we budget 3% of overall SNAP sales. That's what we budget for redemptions each month. So if you want to sort of do this calculation, it's not perfect, and it definitely varies store to store, kind of depending on what mechanism, how you set it up in your system. But that's kind of a good baseline, so you all can have an idea of at least the financial benefits from this program. So there is no cost to participate, but there are some things that may come at a cost to the store by default. So staff time to administer the program, do the training, do the reporting. We don't pay for any of that. If you have an upgrade to your point of sale system to get your incentive mechanism to work, we currently cannot cover that cost, although we have submitted a grant that hopefully will help us cover that cost for some of the smaller stores. And then if you're a larger chain, generally we have larger chains handle their own printing, but we do have some funds to pay for signs and printing. Okay, so these are some considerations that we make when selecting new locations. So, with all programs, our budget does guide what we're able to do. So we definitely, want to make sure that we have the budget to have a new store. We also want to make sure that the store has a proven track record of SNAP sales, so that we can budget, but that we can also see that the store is a good community fit for our program. Availability of local produce. We do like to, look at locations that might be serving a new community outside of our current service area. Even more important, serving historically underserved or marginalized community. We like to see stores with strong community partnerships. We see that helps drive more traffic to the store if the community is invested and helps with outreach. And then we really like to see communicative and invested ownership in the program. Okay, so now we'll get kind of into the specifics of implementation. It's a little dense, but we thought it would be helpful to just kind of talk through some of these mechanisms, how they work. So if you are planning on applying for the program, you'll kind of have a heads up on some of this. Okay, so as we've mentioned, the incentive mechanism is something that you have in place, a loyalty card, digital credit, coupon, voucher, instant discount that allows you to offer Double Up feedbacks. We defer to the stores to decide what incentive mechanism they think will work best with the technology and the systems that you already have in place. We found that stores figuring this out on their own generally results in a system that works better with the processes that are already in place in the store. The most important probably component of the mechanism is that it needs to recognize the SNAP tender, or there needs to be a way for a cashier to manually say, a SNAP transaction has occurred, and then it needs to communicate the earnings and the redemptions to the customer. So here's some considerations to make. First being, there may be a solution that already exists for your point of sale system. So I would say the first step would be reach out to your point of sale provider and ask them if they have already helped another store implement some kind of nutrition incentive program. Currently in our service area, we have partners that are implementing this with the NCR ISS 45 system. It's a coupon system, and IBM ACE with these two providers. I think both providers are probably open to working with other providers that might be using the same system. There are also some out of the box programs that we've heard work well for Double Up Food Bucks. Some of the app-based technologies have these, and they can be tailored to use for Double Up Food Bucks. So again, I would encourage you to reach out to your point of sale provider to see what they have experience doing, because you may be able to set this up at no cost. Obviously, another main consideration is that the system that you choose is easy for the customer to use, and is easy for the cashier to use. Really, the more intervention and conversation, things each person has to do to make this work at the register, the more difficult it's going to be, and you may discourage people from using the program because they don't want to have to try to figure it out every time. I would say for smaller stores that have built relationships with their customers, this is a little different. A larger store, you may want something a little bit more streamlined. Keeping things simple. We've had some stores that try to loop in Double Up Food Bucks with more technology-driven things or things that are just a little bit more complicated. And this program is already a little complicated, so we just encourage you to sort of keep it as simple as possible. All right, so we'll quickly overview the instant discount model. Again, this is just the straight 50% off the purchase of produce with an EBT card. There's no balance, there's no earning or redeeming. And this is limited to stores with budgetary restrictions. So the pros for this is it's pretty seamless for the customer. It's an instant reward. They don't have to remember their card or their coupon. It can be a pretty easy calculation for the customer when they're trying to figure out, how much money how much their groceries are going to cost and how much they're saving. I would say a big con to this program is that if the instant discount is too seamless, the customer may not realize that they're receiving a discount, which is going to disincentivize them from, not disincentivize, they may not return to the store because they don't know that they're getting the discount. They don't have that physical reminder to come back to the store. And then sometimes this does require some cashier intervention because the payment is happening after the discount should have been applied. So generally, the system isn't going to apply this automatically based on the tender type. The cashier is going to need to know that the person is paying with that card before they actually make the payment. Okay. So next, we'll talk about coupons. Won't go too much into the Catalina coupon because we don't have any stores that are currently operating that. But with this coupon that you see in the picture, Basically, the earnings are noted on the receipt, and the receipt acts as the coupon. So the system automatically recognizes the purchase of anything that's in the produce department as fresh produce, and then prints out a coupon for that amount, penny to penny, that the customer then brings back to redeem the next. The way the redemptions work with this system is it's a unique PLU code, which applies, basically manually applies the amount of the coupon, but then they can run a report on that PLU that shows them how much was redeemed. So that's sort of how that is tracked. So pros to this, it incentivizes customers to come back. The earning is entirely machine generated, and it prints out 2 receipts. So the cashier knows, the cashier knows when there's 2 receipts that that's something that they need to do. They need to give the customer the receipt and say, hey, you've got a coupon on here. And then they stash the other receipt for tracking. So it's kind of nice to have that reminder to the cashier. And just, another quick note on the Catalina coupon systems. These are really expensive, but they do have a pretty sophisticated technology. So if that's something you're interested in, or you're already doing a Catalina system, we can certainly talk further about that. All right, so cons with the coupon system. The redeeming is manual. It's not barcoded. I think there are some programs that are able to create that unique barcode, but that's probably an additional cost. The paper coupons are easy to lose, especially when it looks like a receipt and you're not used to keeping something like that. These coupons do have to be redeemed in full. So we've had a couple issues with that, but really not too many. It's just a communications training piece for the cashiers to let them know, to tell the customer, they should pick out additional items or they're going to lose the rest. Then we talked about this round down issue. Some coupons are configured to round down to a whole dollar, and then the customer loses whatever the cents were on that earning. Okay, so next we're going to review what this could look like using a loyalty system. So basically this means that the Double Up food bucks are earned and redeemed as a digital credit that's in an account tied to a loyalty card or a phone number or an account. The earnings are noted on the receipt when the system recognizes the EBT tender is present and the rewards card or loyalty number is present. And then in our experience with the 2 loyalty systems, we have it batches all of the earnings out at the end of the day, and then they're available to be used the next day. Some loyalty systems will apply, kind of on the redemption side, will apply the earnings automatically, and some systems will allow for the customer to choose when they redeem their earnings so they can save them up. So that's just something to consider if you want to go this route. Okay, so definitely a huge pro of this system is if you already have a successful loyalty program in your store and the customers are used to using it, this is a really good way to offer the program because people are already used to coming in and presenting their card. And then, if you have multiple stores, there is some transferability that is really nice to have. So folks can shop at different stores and earn and use their benefits. Reporting is really easy with loyalty. Generally, you can have your folks run reports on the metrics that you need. And we do see higher redemption rates with loyalty versus coupon. So some cons, the customer may not realize that they're earning if this receipt messaging isn't in place or the training isn't in place. I mentioned this 24-hour waiting period. If you don't already have a loyalty system, it can be really expensive to implement if you're looking to do this, just for Double Up Food Bucks. Yeah, and I think I mentioned this too, if the store doesn't already have a lot of customers using the loyalty system, sometimes the customers, they just don't pick up on it as fast because there's not other programs and things tied to that. All right. So honorable mentions for other mechanisms. We do have a couple stores that use like a out-of-the-box or built-in gift card system. Then it's just a Double Up only gift card, and it's pretty manual, but it works well for a smaller store. Basically, you would just get the Double Up cards printed or some kind of card that said Double Up, and then as they earn, you just have to manually add on that amount each time, and then only redeem that on the produce. I've seen pre-printed coupons in other states. These could be barcoded or QR coded. They probably have like a serial number and their whole dollar, and you just give those out. I think that can be pretty labor intensive unless you have like an app or something. I mean, we haven't done it here, but we're certainly open to it. And then digital coupons, would basically be similar to loyalty, except things would be maybe housed in like an app. Again, there's other states that do this. We don't have any stores currently using this mechanism. Okay, so we mentioned communications. Our big communications push is May to September each year. We provide most of the signage. Some of the communications things, I'll go back. Sorry, I thought I had another slide in here. Some of the marketing strategies we use are direct mailing to SNAP households. So each year in June, we send a mailing to every SNAP household that's in a zip code where we have a location. So that's really effective. We do pretty robust outreach through our community partnerships. So what that looks like is us contacting community partners and all of the counties where we have locations and educating them on the program, and then providing them with brochures to provide to their clients. We also do a variety of like radio, newspaper, transit advertising where applicable, and where we have budget. We do Facebook and digital advertising as well. Okay, so our training process, generally we create a training manual for the stores to train their employees. We do like to do in-store training if possible. Sometimes with multi-store chains, we prefer to do like a train the trainer where we'll train all the managers, simply because we don't have the staff time to go to all the stores. Yeah, so like all employees involved with produce department, cashier, customer service should be trained. And then we just ask that you incorporate Double Up Food Bucks into your new employee training procedure. So Double Up Food Bucks reporting occurs monthly. Reports are due the 10th of each month for the previous month's activity. Most stores are submitting their reports through an online form. It's basically a link that I email out as a reminder each month. You can click on it and you fill in all your information there. We do have some of our store chains who report for all of their stores at once versus having each store report individually, and that's just a spreadsheet template we share. So these are the reporting requirements that your point of sale or whatever your tracking mechanism is, maybe some combination of manual or point of sale, that you would need to be able to report to us monthly. So Double Up Food Bucks issued, number of transactions issuing, Double Up redeemed, number of transactions redeeming, dollar amount of SNAP sales and number of SNAP transactions. These last two are, most stores don't report these because they don't have the capability to, but if possible, we do like to see how many unique shoppers we're serving. Other things you'll need to report monthly, nutrition assistance benefits programs that you offer in the store. So that usually is just WIC, but it's a drop-down menu. You just select them. It's pretty straightforward. And then auxiliary services, same. We also require that you submit 2 pieces of documentation each month. One is an invoice, which basically is charging us for the amount of Double Up redeemed in your store for that month. That's how we reimburse you for that cost. And then, some other piece of documentation that shows us how you arrived at that number. And then lastly, the locally grown reporting requirements. We ask that you report the dollar amount of your produce purchased wholesale. So that's all produce, local and non, the wholesale value of that produce. And then the dollar amount of just locally grown, that's within that number. And then basically we create a percentage and we track that percentage over time and work with our stores to look at incremental changes to that percentage. We also ask for a list of the items offered and the name of your vendors and zip codes. Okay, so next steps, first step is attending this webinar. Next step would be to fill out our application. And this is the link to the application. Well, it's not working. I was going to open it up and show it to you, but the application's on our website. It looks like somebody just put it in the chat. Perfect. Thank you. And then once your application is submitted, we will reach out to you within 2 to 3 weeks with more information. So kind of timeline, I think I did briefly see a question about applying in 2021. We basically accept applications all the time. We allow stores to onboard really when they're ready. Just the one thing to keep in mind is that our communications push is that sort of May to September time period. So if you onboard not during that time period, we may not have flyers, brochures, that kind of stuff readily available for you. And then, your location wouldn't be included in some of that, the mailing and other stuff. But if you came on now, that would happen in April. If you came on after April, you'd be part of the next year's communications push. And we work with stores to get them, more tailored flyers or things that they can use in that interim period. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren. That was a great overview of Double Up Food Bucks and a lot of information that I'm sure is going to take a little time to digest, but very, very helpful in terms of knowing how to get started and what to expect in this program. So we have time for Q&A right now. So go ahead and type your questions in the chat box. We can also have you unmute yourself as well if you have a question that you'd like to ask verbally. But we have gotten a few questions in the chat already. And thank you for answering that first question from Jeannie about if it's possible to submit an application for 2021. And my understanding from your answer is that yes, that is possible. All right. So now this next question is from Debbie. And Debbie was wondering about specifically some information that was on the G&W receipt that you had on a slide. So I wonder if you could go back a few slides so we could take a look at that. Debbie was wondering, on the G&W receipt, is the Double Up Food Bucks redemption for the total or just the amount of the vegetables and fruits bought?
Just the amount, yeah, fruits and vegetables purchased. Basically, the system identifies the purchase of fruits and vegetables, and that produce total is what's reflected on the store coupon.
Okay, great. Now, this next question, Beth is wondering, essentially, are there any limits to the types of stores that can participate in Double Up Food Bucks? So, as an example, could it be offered at a C-store or a chain supermarket? Are there any kinds of limitations like that?
I would say the only limitations are budget-wise. Like, if we tried to work with Walmart, obviously that would never work because we don't have enough budget to support, something that large. Even some of the, really large chains throughout Kansas and Missouri. But otherwise, if you sort of hit those elements of success, if you're able to have those, should I bring those back up? Really, that's our criteria. I will say that we've had issues with stores that have a membership model, and we've had issues with stores that have a cost plus model. And it's not that these stores aren't allowed to participate, it's that the point of sale piece gets really complicated really fast. So I'll just throw that out there as a sort of caveat, that we've run into some issues with that in the past. We've also run into issues with stores just having not enough produce or such low SNAP sales that it just wasn't worth the administrative sort of time for the store to offer the product.
Great. This next question is from Beth as well, and it's just kind of a clarification question to understand when customers can earn and spend their Double Up Food Bucks incentives. So customers cannot earn or spend except during the April 1st through December 31st timeframe. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we run a 9-month program. That's how we budget. So there's sort of 3 months each calendar year that we pause the program. I will say this is to kind of assess budget. So if we are looking at our budget early on and we have a lot of extra money, we'll probably let folks run the program year round. But this is how we're sort of designing and budgeting. Is that helpful? Sorry.
I think so, yeah. We just have a couple more minutes for questions at this time, so feel free to continue adding your questions here. But I was wondering, Lauren, if you can share how many stores you're hoping to bring on to the Double Up Food Bucks program. And are applications reviewed on a first come, first served basis?
Yeah, so it's hard to say how many stores because it really depends on the size and scope of the store. But in my experience, working with RGI, I kind of have an understanding of the size, I think, of the stores that would be on this call today. So I would say we probably have about maybe 10 stores over the next year and a half or so. Again, that's based on budget. In terms of application reviewing, yeah, I would say first come, first serve, as long as the locations have those pieces in place that we acknowledge will be a successful location. We are also working as a collaborative to look at areas that aren't currently being served. So if there's a case where we're getting lots of applications at one time, we may look at we may look into geographies where we don't currently have locations.
Great, that makes a lot of sense. All right, well, thank you, Lauren. I think now at this time, we wanted to share some additional resources for grocers who are participating in this program. Well, actually, they would be valuable resources even if you're not participating in this program. But these certainly can help if you're going to participate in Double Up Food Bucks. So I will now turn it over to my colleague, Ryle Carver with the Rural Grocery Initiative, who will talk about things related to local sourcing and some financing opportunities.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryle Carver. I also work with the Rural Grocery Initiative and just wanted to take some time to share a few resources that might help enhance your Double Up Food Buck offerings or help you to be able to implement Double Up Food Bucks. And so the first thing I wanted to touch on is local sourcing. So you heard Lauren mention that if you're offering Double Up Food Bucks, it is required that you are selling local products. And for those of you that may not already be selling, sourcing locally, we just wanted to share a couple resources. So there are actually a fair number of sort of directories around the state that show locally made products or locally produced items. Those include From the Land of Kansas is a great website to look at. It also includes the Kansas Specialty Crop Growers Association. They have a good idea of some local producers in the state. But the one I really wanted to highlight here is Shop Kansas Farms. And the reason I want to highlight that is that there is a new feature on that website where you are able to make a listing for your grocery store. So the idea behind this is that the Shop Kansas Farms site has an interactive map. It has a variety of producers that are listed on that map, and it's sorted by region. So in addition to the producers, grocers can add a listing and then also use the map to identify some potential producers to work with. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that website and just look around and see who's nearby. There may be some producers near you that you could start a relationship with. There should be contact information on those postings. And so that's one way that you can start to think about some potential local producers to work with. The other thing I'll mention is that this is sort of in development. So the Rural Grocery Initiative is very interested in continuing to work on supporting these connections between grocers and local producers. So if you have ideas on how to improve that process, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear your thoughts and brainstorm some ways to improve that. And we also hope to make a few additional improvements to the Shop Kansas Farms grocery store listing to make that even more helpful for grocers. We can go to the next slide. So the next section I want to talk about is the Kansas Healthy Food Initiative, and Erica alluded to this earlier. So the Kansas Healthy Food Initiative is a program that works to increase access to healthy food in low resource and underserved areas of Kansas. And the Rural Grocery Initiative is a partner in that program. As you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, there are a few different partners involved. Next slide. So really what we do is we are supporting this mission of increasing and maintaining access to healthy food through technical assistance and financing. So technical assistance really just means helping to connect you to potential resources, often informational resources or contacts that you can reach out to. And then the financing side of things is where we are able to assist with sort of one-time investments that would allow a store or another healthy food retail outlet to increase their offerings at the retail level. And so this can look anywhere from a completely new store being built, to a new cooler being purchased, to a new point of sale system or an upgraded point of sale system. It could also include some startup costs. It could include helping with expansion. So if you have a sort of a project in mind, the KHFI is definitely an option for you. We provide this through loan grant mixes. And what that means, the way we have ours set up is that if you were to ask for, let's say $30,000, typically 15% of the ask would come in the form of a grant, and then the remainder would be a loan. So rather than have the entire 30,000 be a loan, there is a little bit of a break there by having, in that example, it'd be a close to $4,500 in a grant. So if you have a project in mind, please reach out to us. It's definitely something that could assist with point of sale upgrades, and it's something that could assist with other projects around your store, whether that's, as I mentioned, coolers or equipment or renovation costs. The other thing I want to mention here is that there is a similar program that operates on the national level. It's similar to KHFI, but it's available to the entire country. And that is based, it's maintained by the Reinvestment Fund. It's called the National Healthy Food Financing Initiative. And while KHFI has ongoing review of applications, the national program only reviews applications on a once-a-year basis. And so that program just recently opened up its applications for this year. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that application as well, that program. And if you have ideas for a project, Erica and I would be happy to speak with you about that idea and see if the national program would be a good fit, if KHFI would be a good fit, or if we can think of some other ideas. I can see that Erica just put the links for both the Kansas Healthy Food Initiative and the National Healthy Food Financing Initiative. So please take a look there. And let's see, I think that's all that I wanted to say to wrap this up. So I think we can open it up to see if there are any additional questions for either the Rural Grocery Initiative, Erica or I, or for Lauren. And we'll just take a few more minutes to answer those. Feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question you'd like to ask, or you can type it in the chat. So I see a question about whether the slides and the chat will be available by email. We can definitely send the slides out to everyone that was in attendance. And we'll also have the recording posted on our website in case you want to look back through. And then in terms of the chat, we can also be sure to send some of these links when we send out those slides. So thanks for that question.
I do have, this is Erica. I do have a question just for folks who are interested in participating in Double Up Food Bucks. Would Lauren be the main point of contact for them throughout the whole process, you know, starting with the application to onboarding to evaluation? Lauren, can you talk about who they should reach out to initially and who they would continue working with throughout the program?
Sure. Yeah. So I coordinate with all of our grocers in terms of like onboarding and then technical assistance and reporting. Evaluation generally will reach out to me before they plan to reach out to a store, but I can't promise that. Sometimes they reach out to the stores directly. In terms of the application, I think it says to send to my boss, Donna, so you can send it to her, or if you want, you can send it straight to me. I think my email address is on here. It really doesn't matter. We communicate pretty closely, so it'll get to me one way or another. But yeah, you can feel free to send that to me or her.
Great. And maybe as one final question, do you have any words of advice, words of wisdom in terms of things that you have, what do you think would help grocers be most successful when participating in this program? Do you have any pieces of advice before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would say our most successful stores are the ones that prioritize this and get it done fast. Sometimes the lingering process can get lost and all of the other things that I know grocers have going on. So really, if you're interested in getting this going, you know, getting the ball rolling and staying on top of all the moving pieces really makes for a better program. And the faster you can get onboarded, the more time you'll have of the grant funding. Of course, we hope to get additional grant funding at the end of you know, that August 2024 date. But yeah, I guess that's my biggest piece of advice. Is, yeah, just be attentive and responsive if you're really interested in offering this.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for sharing all of this excellent information. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. I think we're ready to wrap up unless there are any final questions, but I don't see any coming through. So as I mentioned earlier, this webinar will be available at ruralgrocery.org. So you can rewatch it there. And please feel free to reach out to us if you have any additional questions about the program or how your store might participate in this program. So thank you all so much for joining us and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.